You got to park that crap at the door.
9 years on council, eh?
Yeah. 3-year terms.
So what do you think about council and the decisions they're making right now?
What decision you're talking about? I'm not privy to inside information.
Do you follow them?
Yeah, to a degree, I do. I'm still interested in what goes on. I look askance at some of the things, and I say bravo for others. It all depends on your point of view, but you don't. You don't. If you're not privy to all the things that come with making a decision, my problem is and we had it when I was on council. I mean, there are 10 people on council.
Yeah.
And you can basically figure that 2 of them are going to be useless.
Yeah.
Okay, they're on there for the wrong reasons. They don't do the research. They don't read their stuff. They don't know what's going on. They're just there. They're taking up a seat. And I know they get inundated. And I sure wouldn't want to be on council today with social media.
Big change.
It is a huge change, and it's not for the better. Because there are so many negative people out there who, no matter what the poor guy on council is doing, he may be working his butt off, spending hours and hours and making the best decision on his feeling or her feelings, and yet some jerk who doesn't like the decision can write in an email or Twitter or tweet or whatever they call them and blackball a guy and make him look like an idiot and all that, and yet not sign his name to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think that's a step backwards in society. I really do.
Enabling people to make anonymous comments is definitely a step back.
Yeah.
I like the old system where you had to sign your name to something if you were.
I'll say this for the Nugget that they don't accept anonymous stuff. At least their hard copy doesn't. I don't know about the online stuff, but you send a letter to the Nugget and it's got to be signed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they also, in likelihood, they have to put an address on it as well. I would think.
Yeah,
they don't necessarily print the address, but the address has got to be there, and that's the way it should be done.
Well, I remember we used to get a letter. I'd have to type it up, but I'd call and confirm it came from the person and make sure it was real.
Yeah.
And I like that system. I was actually not impressed when for one small couple year period where we were allowing people to make comments under my column where I had to put my name out, and they were allowed to do it anonymously. I thought that was wrong. So I was glad they stopped that.
Yeah.
I think, making people responsible for their words is very important.
No, I admire anybody who runs for council, whether I agree with them or not. The fact that they put themselves forward, and believe me, it is a full-time job. It is a job. And I admire them all for doing it. But not saying you don't have to agree with everything they do, everything they say. Why would they do? But you don't know the background. When I was on council, I knew why we were making decisions because I had all the paperwork, and then we had a more direct contact with the staff. And I was fortunate in all my time on council. I had 6 years as chair of community services.
Mm-hmm.
I had 18 months as chair of public works and 18 months as vice chair of general government. So you were more than just an ordinary councillor. You were a chair, which means not only you had additional responsibilities, but you also had additional rights to go in and sit down and talk to the CEO whenever the heck you wanted to, or the head of your department, whatever it happened to be. And we had a system back then too, where, and I'm for transparency, but transparency can be a plus and it can be a minus. Okay.
Tell me about the minus.
No. If you're dealing with staff director X, okay. Now, staff director X has to go before open council, okay? And if you think staff director X is going to be as honest with you, as fulsome with you in front of cameras and microphones and the public as he would be if he was sitting in a committee meeting of councillors
Mm-hmm.
and talking about the same thing. You'll get more on that out of that committee meeting in private than you will in public. That's what we found. So you get rid of the rough edges in your committee meetings, which we used to have regularly, again, with no public, although the public could have come in if they wanted to. They were open meetings, but not advertised or anything like that. You get the rough edges off whatever it happened to be,
Mm-hmm.
and then your committee takes it to council, and it also is help to the committee members because they know more what the heck's going on. It helps the staff. It helps everybody in concern. Whereas if you've got to do everything in the open arena, all the rough edges are there. And if you think the public will pick on anything, they'll pick on those rough edges. All right? So it's got to be managed. And I know that sounds weird, but it's
From a former journalist, a little bit weird.
but don't tell me you didn't manage your stories.
Of course I did.
You write a story and you've got a little point of view that you stick it in here and there. And you had your columns too.
Yeah.
And you used to rant and rage about different things.
Yeah.
No, I just think transparency is good, but complete transparency is not. Let's put it that way.
I hear you for sure.
And it's not to keep anything nasty from the public. It's to try and get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
All the salient facts still go to the public, but as I say, the rough edges are taken off. For example, if you ask staff director Joe, why did you do this? You ask him in a committee meeting in private, he'll tell you why. You ask him in open council, he's going to give you an answer, but it won't be the whole answer anyway.
Mm-hmm. I remember covering some of those committee meetings, and they were fulsome discussions.
Yeah.
I didn't like when it changed to the point where councillors couldn't ask questions in public either. I didn't like that.
I think part of the whole scheme is your councillor's got to be free to ask questions. But
yeah, I don't think we found the balance yet. I think it's a little bit skewed a little bit, but and I personally don't like this whole movement of. I like constructive negativity.
Yep. Okay.
I like when people pick on the issues that they have, get them out there. They have a suggestion on how to fix it.
Yep.
I think there is a little bit too much negativity for negativity's sake. I don't think it's very respectful sometimes, but
that's why you want to keep politics out of your council.
You're gonna try.
If you have a council that 4 of them are liberals and 4 of them are conservatives and 2 are NDPs and the mayor is green, I'm sorry. You got to park that crap at the door. You really do.
It's tough though.
That kind of party politics, to me, at any rate, has no place at all in the local auditorium.
Tough to do in a small town here.
Well, we're pretty good at it. I don't think you find. I mean, somebody who runs for the Conservatives or runs for the Liberals or whatever, and I worked with both of them. I don't think Anthony came to the table as a Liberal or Al came to the table as a Conservative. I think Anthony came as a citizen and Al came as a citizen. And that's where it's got to be. On the local level, because Yeah, that's one of the things I do not believe in party politics and municipal politics.
So we got a federal election coming up. Have you been following the federal scene?
Well, as much as anybody else does.
What do you think about how things are going for the Liberals?
I think Mr. Trudeau has disappointed a lot of people. Unfortunately.
Promised a lot.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. I don't like political promises.
Yeah.
And going back to council, all I promised in the 3 elections was to work hard and to listen and to be fair. That's what I promised. I think one-trick ponies again have no place on council. A guy who says, "I'm going to run because I think X is wrong and I'm going to correct X." Well, you don't correct X. You work toward correcting X. You got to get 4 or 5 other votes in order to correct X or change X or whatever. So these people who come up with these mouthy promises I just think that's idiotic.
I remember Sid Tompkins' words in a journalistic sort of conference that we had back in '87 or something like that. Don Curry had organized it,
Okay.
and Sid did a seminar, and he said, and his best words, like what I picked up on it, was promise a little, deliver a lot, and that's what he said.
Yeah.
His mantra was. What should North Bay do about the arena situation? What's your take? Where should it be? How many pads where? Or should they?
I don't know. And that's that's a good question. Again, I don't know the gentleman who had been in charge of community services. We were on another project involved with Heritage, and he asked me a question. He says, "What should we do with the West Ferris Arena?" And I said, "I don't know what you should do with it. I would think it ought to be restored. But don't take it away and not give the people of Ferris something." Because Vic Fideli tried to do that. Tried to take away that park right by the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And the people of West Ferris got up on their hind legs and said, "The hell you will."
I remember that.
And then he had to backtrack. When Vic doesn't backtrack very easily.
Yeah.
It was a stupid move. That area, that little stretch of land, that was the heart of West Ferris. And not only was it the heart of West Ferris, it was something that they had done themselves. They did it before amalgamation.
Yeah.
North Bay had nothing to do with it. This is West Ferris, damn it. We'll build that bloody arena. We'll build that bloody park. And that's ours. And you touch it at your risk.
Yeah.
And Vic never realized that until too late.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shame that they can't do something with that building. As far as putting it out at Omichelle, see, again, I'm coming at this from a distance.
Yeah,
okay?
Outside looking in now.
Why they picked that land for Omichelle, I have no idea. Because it cost them almost $1 million to fill in. Well, it cost them $750,000 for rock, for fill, because North Bay is surrounded by wetlands and marsh. And they picked, as city people often do, a wet area. Ferris was a marsh. So they did that, and then they build all these fields. They build the ball fields so that you can't play ball on them with the sun. They build all these ball fields. They don't build dressing rooms. They don't. I don't know whether they've got stands yet for any of the fields.
Bleachers to sit on.
Okay.
Bleachers, not stands. But
Okay.
Bleachers.
But I mean, when you're building an athletic facility, you need, especially that far out.
Yeah.
You need washrooms and dressing rooms, and then to come along with a rule: oh, you can't. Your football team can't change in the dressing rooms. Well, come on, and you're trying to attract people.
Yeah, it was kind of half done. Some people would say half-assed done. But
Yeah, they instead of saying, okay, instead of putting up 7 fields, we'll put up 5. We'll leave the rest to develop later,
Mhm.
and we'll build bloody dressing rooms and washrooms. But now they're going to get. Now they're talking about putting the arena there, so that'll help them with the dressing room facility.
Yeah. Yeah, they have nice washrooms. That's what I was going to say.
They've got washrooms, have they? Good.
Beautiful washrooms.
Okay.
But porta potties down by the ball fields because they're so far away.
Yeah. It's easy for me to sit back and say X, Y, and Z, where as I said, I don't know the ins and outs.
But your experience and whatnot is important. They need to hear some perspective and a bigger picture thinking. I think they do get caught up in the details and the machinations of just getting something done and funding and the politics, and they don't look at the big picture very well. The long-term planning is rare.
Long-term planning is great, but it cannot go out the window if you don't get the grants.
Yeah.
Down the line. My problem in some areas is a lack of listening.
Mm-hmm.
If you're building any athletic facility, you at least should be talking to the users and not just talking to them, but listening to them. And the average citizen, the odd time has a pretty good idea,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a pile of garbage he throws at you, but there could be 1 or 2 really great ideas. And the idea is to listen to those ideas and say, that really makes sense. Let's see if we can do whatever they're suggesting. And then you've got to go back and go through can we do that? You've also got to have people who are in charge who have a clue about the field that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I've high respect for staff, city staff. But sometimes, because of the shifting of chairs and all this sort of stuff, some people are put into positions where they're just not experienced enough,
Mm-hmm.
or not ready for, or whatever. And if you combine that with closed ears, then you got a problem, and it has happened. So
Pretty well describes the last 10 years, no?
that's
I'm not trying to hang you here, Peter.
That's a bit rough. As I say, I don't know the ins and outs and the backgrounds and all that sort of stuff. Some stuff I can talk to you about because I know some of the background and stuff, and others I can't.
I just had coffee with Dave Linke. I thought he was a good CEO.
Dave is a lovely man. When I came on council, Dave was in planning.
Mm-hmm.
And he had another job before that. I forget what it was. You're dealing with people in a fairly high level, and you phone them, and the chances that they'll phone you back 50-50 if you're lucky, which is bad PR. Dave Linke never forgot to return a phone call. Never. Even after hours,
Mm-hmm.
he would phone call. He's a nice person. And he was moved up the ladder. He became CEO, and I really was afraid for him. I really was. I thought he was too nice a person to be in that position. But he grew into it.
Yep.
And he stood up to Mr. Fideli, which is not the easiest thing on earth to do, and he came out unscathed. I hope. That's department heads, CEO, all a very, very stressful position, because you not only have the great unwashed out there with their tweets and twitters, you've got hungry staff people below you who maybe want that job.
Yeah.
And then you've got sometimes a pushy mayor
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes a pushy council. You've got to try and balance all the balls.
Yeah, tough job. I think he did all right from the ones I saw. I've only really worked Sheffield, Linky, Knox. I wasn't very familiar with this latest guy. Didn't think much of him.
Well, that's an interesting story too. And nobody knows what it is. Only the council and the mayor. Because the CEO is the only employee of the council. The council has no say in any other position. It's supposed to be no say in any other position in the city staff. That goes from top to bottom. The council's only employee is the CEO.
The councils or the mayors?
Council. Well, the mayor's, well, it all depends on the authority that the mayor wields for the council. The mayor is only one vote.
Yeah.
The mayor may walk or...
The
mayor is one vote out of 11.
Yeah.
And he can, if he doesn't get 4 or 5 other votes of the council, he can fulminate about X, Y, and Z, and it'll just be hot air. But if he gets the support of a certain number of councillors, a majority of council, then he can put in whatever he wants to do. So,
should North Bay have 10 councillors or less or more?
I've always been happy with the 10 because, as I said, 2 of them are going to be useless. So you got 8. And if somebody's sick, you got 7.
Yeah.
So you're having your city's decisions made by 7 people. I think that's about.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, as I say, you've got 2 people who are not AWOL, but not with it. Generally.
Yeah, I find that you got 2 rookies that aren't very effective, 2 veterans or people that have been there for a while that are no longer effective and not as engaged, and then you whittle it down to 5 or 6.
Yeah, don't run down the rookies. It all depends on how much how interested, how invested they are.
Yeah, okay.
How interested they are. How are they going to do any work? I can recall sitting on council and a veteran councilor sitting on. They used to meet on Monday, and I think it was a mistake to change it.
So do I.
And I think it was a mistake to change it from committee and council meeting in one night. I think that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's wrong because committee decides something at 6:30, and council can pass it at 7:30. I think that's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should have time to think things over. Now, where was I going with before I went off on another tangent?
Well, we were talking about the number on council, and you like the 10 because there's, 2.
Oh, there was something else.
But you were coming to the aid of rookies and saying that
Oh yeah, I can recall, and I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting at the table on a Monday night. Council meeting is ready to get underway, and we get packages on the Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got the weekend to go over everything that comes before you. And I swear, this veteran councilor, walking into the council chambers 5 minutes before the meeting starts, ripping open his package.
Gee, who was that?
I'm not going to say.
You're a gentleman.
A man with great reputation in town. Wonderful person.
Yeah.
But that's what my God. You're opening your package when you come into the council meeting?
Yeah, how
but
effective.
That's the way it was done back.
That might have been okay.
I hope you can. I hope nobody does that today. The only excuse is if you're sick or you've been away, or something like that. That's the only excuse.
That's what I liked when the counselors actually did have an opportunity to ask questions, and you could tell by their questions whether they're prepared and had any background yet.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, that's why I like a counselor to have a voice at the meetings, so you can actually tell if they're thinking, if they give any thought to it ahead of time, and whether or not where they're going with it. If you don't hear their voice, you don't know where they're at.
Yeah. Some of them, of course, are masters at asking the question to appear interested. I mean, there's that part of it too.
But you see through
They
that.
just do it because, well, everybody else is asking the question.
But you can tell by their
Think I know
questions
what
where
they
they're at.
But-
I love it when people ask questions. That's where you can tell. You can tell a lot about them.
Yeah, but you can't. One of the problems maybe it's a problem, maybe not. I don't know. But you can't have a debate. You can't debate with a person making a presentation. And you can't ask that person questions, and there are a lot of restrictions that I think could be relaxed.
Well, I think it was bad when those restrictions came into place. I actually do. But shorten up the meetings, but it gave all the control to the guys that had the power. Yeah.
I had every respect for Jack Burrows as the mayor. Every respect. Jack felt everyone should have his say, his or her say.
Mm-hmm.
As a result, in council meeting nights, we would have everybody and their brother up making public presentations, and Jack would not hear of a time limitation. We tried, Jack, can we make it, because we used to, I've marked the times down for 2 hours of public presentations. And then we had a council meeting council matters to deal with after that.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack believed very, very strongly that everyone who wanted to come before council should be allowed to come before council and have their say. If it took 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it was. And I admire him for that. It was difficult. Vic put some time limits on it, which I think was a wise thing to do. But you can have too many restrictions as well, as you said. But we had one guy come before council who claimed he was related. He was Jack's brother or something. Some strange gentleman came up, talk, and then I'm your. We had all sorts. But it was interesting.
Yeah.
Time consuming, but people have interesting points of view, and you got to give them a chance to. And if they're up there spouting off about something, they're involved, they're interested, and the council chambers need to be full more than they are. They're only full now if there's something controversial. And then you get the usual suspects up saying their usual things.
I like it when almost like an individual that you wouldn't normally see get up there and become engaged because it's an important issue to their heart, but they aren't political about it. And that seemed to me made other people want to be engaged. Like just seeing that other person involved, the normal everyday person.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough of that. But.
Well, Jack certainly encouraged it.
Yeah, the pendulum swung a little bit too far. We can agree on that.